All right, all right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Agency Intelligence, where we give you real agents inside real agencies, giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. We bring you the real stuff. I bring you the real stuff. I do what I do because I do it for you. And today I am bringing you Ellie Platt, and she is part of the series that we call the Mom Series, which is actually Mothers of Mastermind, MOM. See what I did there? Every once in a while, I'm creative. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring to the light the great people that we have in the mastermind. And sometimes, as we always do, probably in this society, I don't think sometimes if you're not a loud person, if you're not out there speaking up all the time, you get overlooked, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to bring some of these people forward, because the mastermind, we're loaded with talent in there. So do appreciate it, and thank you, and welcome to the podcast, Ellie.
Hey, Jason, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I'm a loyal listener. I listen all the time. So,
Oh my goodness. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. So, sorry. We do the best we can. But I wanted to reach out to you because for all you loyal listeners, she was recently a mastermind spotlight member. And that's where we highlight one member a
Right.
month, and we have them come on and stuff like that. And you had an interesting track record. You're really, really growing.
Oh,
And
growing.
yeah, it's all the same thing. I mean,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you are growing, you're probably glowing, because you're happy. So what I want to do is I just want to discuss life and discuss
Yeah.
insurance. We're two people meeting at a local establishment, having a cold, refreshing beverage, discussing insurance.
Okay,
Sounds
great.
boring to about 99.9% of the world, but
But
to us,
it is probably my favorite topic. So, I mean, I'm
it
good.
is.
I can
It
pull
is.
out a beer right now.
And isn't it weird how we've developed in this sharing world like two sets of friends, right?
Yeah, right,
You have
right,
your friends, right? Your people, you're in your community, your
right.
church,
Mhm.
maybe from high school, whatever it can be. And then like you have this whole other thing. And
This
like,
whole other, right.
and I see more people in my Facebook feed that are from
Yeah,
insurance than I
yeah.
do my other friends, right?
Right, right. And
Such
it's
a weird thing.
wild. It's interesting, like over time, where it's becoming more and more, because Facebook has their algorithm. So obviously
Mhm.
they're showing me who I want to see. I'm seeing the insurance people. Like that's who, what I'm
Me
looking at,
too.
what I'm interested in. And there are amazing people out there. Like
Hmm.
I actually, this week, I was listening to a few like of your old podcasts, and Billy Wagner. Oh my God, that
Come
he's a
on.
legend. He's amazing. So many great people that were like-minded. It's so great
Mhm.
to connect with people like that. I saw him in Arizona last month, and just you see him, and my heart's like, I love this guy. He's so great. And
Right.
there's so many other people like that in our industry that I love to see not only what they're doing in their businesses, but their lives. Like they become friends.
I do. They do.
Hmm.
They do. You start to see the effect of social marketing whenever you do have a more personal
Right.
relationship with them. You don't have
Hmm.
to go through all the rigmarole.
Right.
I
Right.
already know Daniel Song and his wife and his kids,
Yeah.
right? I already
Mhm.
know what they do a lot of times. I know their fun things they do. Daniel, whenever they're going out and they're in San Francisco, I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's his wife, him and wife anniversary, right? It's the things that you know about people already, and it
Yeah.
allows us to dive deeper into a relationship when we do see each other, like at BrainShare.
Right.
So yeah, are you ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
iPhone or a Droid user?
Oh, so I am currently an iPhone user. I am an
Hmm.
Android user, lover at heart, I would say. Android has my heart.
Really?
My son, my 12-year-old son, duped me into going iPhone. Really, all Apple products in general. And so our only deal was that he had to use some of his allowance to buy Apple stock. I was like, you put your money where your mouth is, and then well, we have a brokerage account. Like it's something fun we do together. And so I was like, you know what? We can do this, but you're gonna, really support Apple then.
Wow, that's an
So
interesting concept. I like that. I
yeah,
like that a
but
lot.
yeah, I like Android better, but I mean, iPhone has some great qualities.
Oh, absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
It does. In
Mhm.
my son, so my oldest one, he just took the Droid. He didn't care. My youngest one refused. He wanted the iPhone, so I
Yeah,
made him
yeah.
work for it and do things. But I will tell you, especially when you're trying to keep track of them, it's a lot
Hmm.
easier if you're all on the same network. The systems work
Agreed.
together a little bit better.
Oh, and
Um,
I am a tracker. I'm a mother that tracks. Like I know where he
oh,
is. I get the alerts.
You know, Ellie, let's talk about that for a minute because that's a
Yeah.
very interesting concept. Because when you think about that, how does that affect our kids? My wife's a tracker.
Yeah.
I'm a tracker.
Yeah.
I think she does it a little bit too much because I think it puts worry into her head that we should,
Right.
sometimes we find out at a later time. It's like, oh, they really were just there or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But as my wife says, it's the 2 or 3 times she catches them not, which makes it worth it. But the thing is that how does that affect them? Think about this: when they're 30 and 35 and 40, do they
True.
really
Right.
mind being tracked? Right? They've been tracked
So
their whole life by so
yeah.
many things.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. I think it's something to think about. My son's 12. So for me it's more of a safety thing. I'm
Yes.
not I'm also a single mom. I'm not married to his dad, so he's not always with me. So I think he's
Ah.
younger. So I do think it's a little sometimes it's a safety. Like I know like to know where he is. So I do. I think as he gets older, once
Mhm.
he's 15, 16 years old, I probably will stop doing it. But my son tracks me. So it goes the other way. So my son, he just had this happened recently. He was somewhere he didn't know. He was like, "Why are you at this address?" And I don't want to have to explain why I'm at where I'm at. And so it does go the other way.
Wow,
So
interesting.
great.
Good concept. I like that. What's the last app you downloaded?
Oh, I was in the Bahamas a couple months ago for a wedding, and I downloaded a constellation app. So that
Look
would,
at the
and so
stars.
where you can look at the stars. It's actually been
Mm,
cool. My son and I have done
it
it
really
together a
is.
couple times. I mean, business wise, I just downloaded Bookings. We just started using Microsoft Bookings, like Calendly, but it's offered within
Oh,
Microsoft or
built
Office
within.
365.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably my last business app.
What's the tracking app you use for your child?
Life 360.
Yeah, that's what we use too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just
And
kinda
it's
sharing.
good. I mean, I'll have some things like different places I know he goes frequently, like it'll pop up. But sometimes it's
Mhm.
a good reminder for me. Like I'm like, oh shit, I need to get home from work to be home. Like, it'll
Yeah,
sometimes it's
yeah.
a good reminder for me too.
Yeah.
So
He's got a bunch of friends that live in this subdivision, and they all live, like, so close to each other, and so
yeah.
sometimes that's the tough thing is a little, first world problems in Life 360. I don't know exactly what house he's at because the thing's
Oh
kinda like,
yeah.
I know
Sometimes
he's
it
right
grabs.
here. Yeah, it
Right.
grabs other things.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, wow, interesting thing. So do you love to win or do you hate to lose?
Oh, I love to win.
Love to
Yeah.
win. I
I
like
think
that.
like
Good
most
for you.
people, I've grown the most through my losses.
Mhm.
But I think they've added probably more value to my life, but I'm a winner. I want to be the best.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely can see that in you too, and just,
Yeah.
from knowing you of what the ways that I do, I can
Right.
definitely see that. That's awesome, that's awesome. Luck or skill, what's brought you to where you are?
So I've thought about this a lot because I listen, people answer this frequently. So, I don't know. I would say, definitely say skill. I'm a big believer, who was it? I think maybe it was Seth Zaremba that said he doesn't believe in luck.
That's right, that's right.
There's probably one of my favorite quotes was the guy that created vaccines is chance favors a prepared mind. It's one of my favorite. I use it all the time in the office.
Mm,
And I
good
think
one.
Benjamin Franklin had something similar that something like success happens when opportunity and skill intersect.
Mhm.
And, and I think, so I do think, you know, I feel like I've been very fortunate in my life, but I mean, I've had to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. So I lean towards skill.
Love it, love it.
Hmm.
I know your background, but take us back 20 years, those nonprofit days, those,
Yeah,
nationwide days. Bring us forward in about 3 or 4 minutes to how you got where you are now. It's a
sure.
good little
Yep.
story.
So my background, so I do not have an insurance background. My first job out of college was in the nonprofit world. So I did fundraising, grant writing, marketing for a local nonprofit in the area, and never thought I would leave. I was there 10 years, but I got to this place, like a lot of entrepreneurs, where you're sick and tired of working your butt off for somebody else. And I was ready for something new. And at the time in Ohio, so I'm in Ohio, Nationwide Insurance was looking at a new strategy, and they were taking all these agents that have been sitting on the renewals for 30 years and bought them out. And they were trying to bring in new agents to take on these books of business. They were consolidating them, bringing on books of business, bringing on new agents. And so someone had given them my name. I sat down with them. Never in a million years thought that I would do this. And within 5 minutes, I was quitting my job, getting my insurance license, and going to buy a book of business in a very small. So I'm in Northeast Ohio. It's a struggling area. It's a pretty oppressed area, but this was even more, it was even smaller area. So I took a really small rural book of business and, left my job, took a leap of faith. My son was 2 at the time.
You're a winner.
And I just did it. and it's been amazing. So when I got in, and I've talked to you about this before, but I got in and I didn't know insurance. If you had to ask me what comp and collision was, I could not have told you what it was. So I walk in day one. There was one employee in the office. Her name is Kate, who's now one of my most dearest people in my life. She gave me her 2-week notice and she's like, I'm out. She's like, you're the age of my kids. I've been here for 20 years. She's like, I'm done. And so thankfully I said, Kate, give me 1 month. Let's just give me 1 month and let's see how this goes. And so she agreed to 1 month. 10 years later, she's still with me. She threatens to leave probably every month. She's one of those that doesn't love change, but that's okay. But she always comes around and she's amazing. And I've learned so much from her. And
staple of the industry. It's our staple of the agency, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's been wonderful for me. I've learned so much. She's been a mentor in a lot of ways. And so I started there. And then once I started to learn insurance as an industry, but also even basic things as in, so I'm 90% personal lines, home and auto. I didn't really even understand what the revenue stream was walking into this business. I just did it. And once I got in and I understood the process of, renewals and where our cash flow comes from, like so many people, it's an amazing business, an amazing model. And so I decided my focus the last 10 years has been almost exclusively on acquisitions. So I have in 10 years done 10 acquisitions, all nationwide insurance books of business, which is obviously much different than doing an independent acquisition. But that's really how we've grown as an agency.
Wow. Is that your plan for the next 12, 24 months as well to keep growing that way?
Say that one more time.
Is that your plan going forward to keep growing that way?
No. I think the people that on our team would kill me. No, I think I'm at a place now. So last July, like all nationwide agents across the country, we went independent, which is the best thing that could have ever happened to really myself, our business, our clients. And so I feel like in a lot of ways it's been 10 years, but we're a brand new agency. And, I've spent the last couple of years learning and growing from people like you, just the greats of our industry, just being a sponge. And so I think now my focus now is mainly on growing organically. How will our agency now fit into, how can we be an agency of the future? And so that's really our focus now. I think I've grown to a place where I'm proud of where we're at. I mean, we're a good size agency. We're about 12 million in premium. So lots of 10 agencies, but they were also a lot of little agencies.
No,
and
that's what you're managing now. Good for you.
Yeah. And just huge challenges that come with that. A lot of those small agencies, which is typical in our industry, are, an agency owner, typically a man, a woman working in the office that pretty much runs things. And I've had to consolidate all of these into one organization. So we're talking, a lot of the agents that have come on, it was an identity crisis for them. They're running things, they're the right-hand person to the agency owner. And so it's been a lot, merging cultures and workflows and personalities. So that's probably been my biggest challenge, and now we're at such a great place. And now I'm thinking, okay, we have this great team in place, now what does this look like in the future? And so that's where we're at now. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, I can tell.
Yeah.
Ellie,
Mhm.
you are excited about it, and wow, what a great place to put yourself. 12 million in premium. Things we get more stresses with the more revenue we get, but we're also
Right,
able to do things right that we
right,
couldn't do
right.
before. You're building a building right now. Am I right about that?
Yeah,
Like
so I just
building
bought a building. I
bought a
just bought a
building. That's
building.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite people is Seth Zaremba. So Seth is about an hour from me. From
He's
he's in
north,
Cleveland. Yeah, he's north. Like he's in Cleveland. I'm about north or whatever southeast
southeast.
from him. So
Okay.
he's an hour from me. He's in
Okay.
Cleveland, and Seth. Yeah, he's such an amazing guy. I remember, when I first met him or first realized who he was, and he was so close. I literally I called him, I Facebook messaged him, and I showed up on his doorstep. I was like, I just want to spend some time with you. And he
Mhm.
did. He spent a couple hours, in his office. He was so great. So he's one of the people I've really learned from.
Yeah, he really he is fantastic. Now on the when when we're talking about the future of where you see yourself, I wanted to ask you this question. Have you
Hmm.
thought about growing in commercial lines?
Yes. So,
What are your thoughts there? Have you thought of developing
yes.
any niches?
Yes, and I think that will be the way that we go. So since I started, I mean, most of the agencies I've purchased have been home and auto.
Hmm.
But when you look at our growth, the growth that we have had outside of acquisitions, it's been in commercial lines. So, um, yeah, I think obviously niches, I think is the way to go.
Ellie,
We've,
have you thought about my reason for asking the question is your nonprofit background is
yes.
huge. And the reason why it's huge is not only is it good because you know the industry and you have a street cred, but it's
Hmm.
also a niche that if most places call nonprofits call an agent, the agent's either going to say no or they're usually going to go to an E&S brokerage market. So
Right,
you
right.
having premium is going to allow you to get the markets for it. You having the background and saying, "Hey, here's my target business marketing approach." I think you'd kill it
I love
because you
that.
probably already have niches.
Right.
I mean,
And we
excuse me, you
have
already have contacts. You know.
Right. And I think kind of naturally that has happened. So a lot of the
Ah,
relationships I've had in my nonprofit world have carried over. But the biggest, yeah, I think, and I know that's a niche of yours, isn't it?
that's
Nonprofit.
absolutely that is my
Yeah.
niche. Yeah.
I've really wanted to talk to you about this because part of the challenge of going from being captive to independent is obviously finding carriers. And because of our premium, yes, it's been easier, but I've had some that it's been a little more difficult. Churches and nonprofits are an
Hmm.
interest of mine. So my father was a church pastor, so I grew
Okay.
up, and so that's also a natural market of ours. And so I think finding the right carriers, and I don't know that I've really identified who those carriers are yet.
Right.
But I agree. It's definitely an interest.
Hey, if anybody's a loyal listener out there and you're writing nonprofits in the state of Ohio, find
I would
Ellie
love that.
on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. Try to give her some of those markets. I think West Bend writes there. I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure, but I think they do. They have an unbelievable nonprofit market. First Nonprofit is really, really good. Guide One is really good. Now, when I first got into the nonprofit, I got into the churches, but what I realized is that is a very huge political game. That was
Yeah.
just me personally, because
Uh-huh.
you always have somebody on the finance committee who thinks they can save
Hmm.
money and they have a buddy, right?
Right.
And so it's
Uh-huh.
just constantly, it's like, okay, I'm really having to reshop this thing for $10,000 in premium, right?
Right.
Which is
That
fine.
makes
And I'm not trying to
sense.
say that that's low or high for our agency, that's low. And it's like,
Yeah.
but the
Hmm.
social organizations, anything dealing with kids or seniors, those things are
Yeah. And
usually
it's where
really
that's
good.
my passion. I mean, my background's nonprofit. It's still where my heart is. And if you look at our agency, so much of where we spend our time and our network and our referrals still comes from that nonprofit world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in. So I would,
Yeah.
yeah, Philly. I've talked to Philly a little bit.
Yep.
I'm doing a
Okay.
really big nonprofit with auto owners, which we
Mhm.
have. So the auto owners is one that's definitely shown some interest in nonprofits. So
Yeah.
the DNO, like finding that, I think has
Mhm.
been an issue,
That's
but that's
that's
that's definitely an interest. We've also, I actually think it would be funny to have like a church, do like breweries and wineries and churches, like that be our specialty. Because I feel like that would be awesome. And hemp, so we do a lot of farm. So in
Mhm.
Ohio, industrial hemp is now, farmers can now grow industrial hemp. So we just did a seminar on industrial hemp. So I think it'd be hilarious to do like
Yeah.
weed, beer, wine, and churches.
I'm
Like
looking
those are
forward
our
to it.
niches.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That would be great. That would awesome. That would be really good.
Yeah.
And you could
So
really
if,
market the heck out of that, right? Like just
right,
play
right.
on the fact that these are weird things.
Yeah.
But no, I hear your nonprofit. When I read that earlier, I was like, man, that nonprofit niche.
Hmm.
And the thing is I get me personally, I like niches not so much because I have an expertise in it. I like it because it keeps other agents away.
Uh,
Whenever I
yeah.
used to do railroad contractors, that was my very first niche back in
Hmm.
'05. And how I did it was I had this lady say, "Are you sure you do railroad contracting? Because every time we try to get a quote, no one has the markets or no one can get us a quote." And I
Right.
remember thinking to myself, like, holy cow, if no one else can get those markets and I can. And so that was the same
Yes.
thing with nonprofits. I realized that
Right.
nonprofits, when I quoted on two or three of them, they were all with like ENS markets. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
coming in with West Bend and my market's just killing it.
Yeah.
And there's only really truly three or four good markets in the whole state of Illinois or within about 4 or 5 states. So it
Right.
allows me, and then most agents, like I said, want to stay away from it because they're scared. And
Yeah.
really, it's nothing more.
It isn't.
It's the
Right.
same thing, and that's what
Hmm.
that's what all loyal listeners and everybody needs to know. No matter what niche it is, 95 to 99% of the insurance is all the same. It's general
Yeah.
liability, how
It's
you
pretty much the
classify it. It's
same.
got
Mhm.
autos, umbrella. I
But
mean,
also the marketing. So we're able to be more strategic about how we reach out, to that industry. And I like it for that reason too.
the industry is neglected too, Ellie.
Hmm.
So like they have these federal and state requirements that make that they have to like bid their insurance out every 3 to 5 years,
Right.
right? Well,
Hmm.
no one really knows. It's actually every
Yeah.
3 years if it's state, 5 years if it's federal. Well, they don't know. And then whenever they have to bid it out, then they're just like taking copies of their
Yeah.
niche pages.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
we tell them right at the beginning, the
Yeah.
first day that we write them, if you decide to bid it out in 3 years, which you have to do, we're going to prepare your bid packets for you. And then
Wow.
and then
Yeah.
what we do is we just take what's
I
recommended
love
from the
that.
government.
Hmm.
And now guess what happens whenever they want to bid it out, if they for some reason want to do it earlier,
Right.
they'll
Right.
email me and say, "Jason, we're going to bid this D&O out. Would
Yeah.
you get us something on that?" So we build
Wow.
those packets. It also gives us an inside thing. So that's what I
That's
mean. There's a lot of
awesome.
other those things, they're neglected. No
Yeah,
one
I need to
ever.
double. You've inspired me. I really need to double down on that because that's what I did was I prepared the RFPs. That's what I did on the nonprofit side. So I just did a presentation to a group of recovery houses, and
Oh,
they're licensed by the state of Ohio, but they're just basically property owners that are renting space to people that have drug and alcohol issues. Well, a
mhm.
lot of these, there was probably 20 of them there. Half of them probably were insuring with like a traditional dwelling fire, like or
Oh
home,
my
like
God.
not even commercial lines.
I've ran into those.
So things like that. I mean, there's so much need, I think, in that industry, and yeah, I
Agents
think
just want the business, so they just take it on and they throw it somewhere. And like,
yeah,
yeah, so you can go
right,
in and just
hmm
destroy the field just by doing
yeah.
what they should have been doing from the
I think
beginning.
for me, it's just aligning the carriers, and that's been our
Mhm.
biggest challenge. Going independent, I was focused on like, let's get some personal lines carriers. We got our 4 or 5 that we wanted, and now commercial is where I really need to align the carriers that are going to fit with what we do well. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. D&O and all that kind of stuff like
Hmm.
that. So no, that's
Well,
that's
man, I'd love to
fantastic.
talk more about that or anybody, just about carriers because.
Yes, please. If you're in the state of Ohio, they need to know that. Um, Yeah, and you build your little stories. Like people are like, "Well, how do you explain DNO?" Well, to be honest with you, all I have to do is I've read what I read. It's
Right.
very vague to a lot of people, but it's very exact. I know that sounds goofy,
Hmm.
but I developed 3 or 4 stories that I heard. I got one from Garth Brooks, a real DNO story that he did to a hospital down in Nashville. And
Wow.
so reading that put it together that, oh, that's what D&O is, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways.
That's cool.
Um,
I'm
um,
inspired. I'm ready to go.
Last thing on nonprofits, most of them were started in the 70s and 80s. So a lot of the executive directors now are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so
Yeah.
there's a huge turnover.
Right.
That's why I created a podcast called
That's
MP Local,
interesting.
because there's all these CFOs and these account
Yeah.
executives who have been working for the executive director for 5, 10 years. And now it's time for them to take over. And they're kind of like, okay, I was only doing the stuff I was supposed to. Now I need to
Yeah.
learn the nonprofit business. You have an insight to help those people
Right.
better
Right.
their business, which insurance just can't
That's
expect them to.
interesting. That's happening in our market as well. So even in our area too, there's an agency that is sort of known for nonprofits, and their
Mhm.
producer, she's about to retire.
There you
And
go.
so I've been kind of spending time with her, talking to her as much as I can. So because,
Mhm.
I think because at some point she's going to be done. So,
Yeah, that's absolutely that's a good one
mhm.
to go
Hmm.
after. So, so anything that how is life? I know you talk about your 12-year-old. You have one son,
So I have
correct?
one son. Yep.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. And so, do you see him coming into the business?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't, I see him owning a business. It's funny how in
Sure.
acquiring the agencies that I have, how many of these agents, their children didn't want to get into the business, which blows my mind. Like why would they not want to?
I know.
Yeah. And no, I would love if my son wanted to do this, so, I would love if he wanted to get into it. One of my probably big challenges now is, just being a single mom, and I've posed this to the mastermind group, is succession planning. I think so many agencies don't think about that in general. Is if something happens to me, what happens to the agency, or what if if I
Mhm.
retire? And so being a single mom and having a 12-year-old son who he's not going to be able to jump right into it right away, and so I've
Mhm.
been really looking at that right now. Is what are my options? If something happened to me, um, how would I keep the agency going until he was old
Mhm.
enough to decide if he wanted to
Interesting.
do?
Interesting
Yeah,
thought. Yeah, and that's a big gap, right? Because he could possibly be 10 years from now at the age of 22, or
right, right.
maybe he
Mhm.
decides not to go to college and come in right at 18, which I'm not
Yeah.
against by no means. I'm one of those people that gets looked at whenever, I go to my son's thing at the end of his sophomore year, and the teacher's like, "So what college are you really looking at? Because we need to start lining up for this." My
Right.
son is very challenged in school. He has a learning disability. And so for
Yeah.
him to get straight C's, like, we are working and we're
You're
pumping,
working
right?
hard.
I
Yeah.
just looked at the principal. I said, he's not going to college. If he
Yeah.
wants to go to college, he can go, but school is
Yeah.
difficult for him, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
And my son's, he's starting to see his older brother, who's 21, who's joined the agency.
Uh,
It doesn't take long for Gavin to realize, my oldest 21-year-old, that, like,
yeah.
okay, if I really bust my butt for 5 to 7 years and really learn this, like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
making $200,000 a year as
Yeah.
a 28-year-old. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like, there's
Yeah.
that kind of potential. Will it probably happen? Probably till he's 35, but
Yeah. Right.
still,
Right.
even at the age of 35, and he has his
He's
thing,
seeing it. Right.
and his
Hmm.
brother, and so, anyways, yeah, I
I mean,
I
I see both. I like the idea of them getting other experiences and bringing
mhm,
it back to the agency. But my dream would be that he would take over the business for me.
mhm,
He's going to
mhm.
buy it. I mean, if that's what he wants, I say that to him all the time. Like, you're going to buy it. You're not
Yeah, I
just
mean,
walking in.
yeah,
Um,
mama needs a way out.
yeah, exactly. But no, I think it would be a great path for him. My son's
Mhm,
similar. My son actually does pretty well in school, but he really dislikes it.
mhm.
He says all the time, like, this is just a waste. He doesn't see the value. I mean, and I get it in some ways. He's like, why do I have to learn, this, different math or different things? Like, am I really going to use that? And he's like,
Right.
I just want to buy rental properties. And he's 12.
Right, exactly. No,
Yeah.
he's so exactly right. And there's people that need to know theorems. But my son
Mhm.
he's not in special ed, he's the assisted. It's right in between special ed and what we do
Okay.
normal.
Mhm.
And so like they're wanting him to learn theorems. I'm like, he can barely remember X and
Yes.
Y's, let
Right,
alone why
right.
are we concentrating? Why don't we start to just get real with him
Let's
and
focus
start
on
to say,
practical,
practical things that are going to
Life
get him
skills
through
that he
life.
can do. Uh-huh.
Yes, exactly. And so,
Yeah, I'm with
teaching
you.
cursive. Do we really need to take
Right,
time every day to teach
right,
cursive? Do we
right.
really need to do that, right?
Really, are the
So, anyways,
entire, yeah, all of it. And my son's, yeah, he brings it up all the time. He feels like it's a waste. He's doing busy work, and it stinks because I feel kind of the same way. And like he's right, and I try and talk about we're building a foundation.
that's it.
You're that
Mhm.
everything builds on each other. So I talk to him a lot about persistence and discipline. That you're learning to play the game. You know what? Who cares about A's and B's? But the fact that you're learning what it
Mhm.
takes to get an A, that's a
Mhm.
skill. And
Absolutely.
so
That's
that's something that
exactly
you
right.
can use. So I do try and talk to him about that. But and there's some kids that the traditional model of education works. If you're going to be an astronaut and a
A
brain
lawyer or
surgeon, like
doctor
you
or
need
whatever.
calculus. My kid's probably not going to need calculus,
Right.
but I think, but it's still good. I mean, he's still, I keep trying to push him back to discipline, persistence,
Yeah.
all of those things that you get from
Consistency,
finishing something.
right? Consistency. I tell
Consistency.
I tell my son, because I say it a lot, I've said it on the podcast, you can do the wrong thing consistent and
Yeah.
you'll be successful at it if you do it long enough, right? After a while, people will just be like, dude, he's been doing that wrong forever, but I guess it's
Right.
just working, right? It's one of those weird things. Consistency is
People
so
say, what is it
important.
about working out? If you spin in a circle every day for 10 minutes, you'll lose weight. Like just do it every day. Like you're doing something.
That's right. That's a good one. I like that. I
Right.
like that totally. I like that. So, what are you? Let's wrap this up. Is there anything specific that you want to say to the loyal listeners when you listen? Is there anything specific that you think normally? Is there
Um,
anything you want to say to them?
I would say so. The last few years, I've been a sponge. I'm new to the independent world, and there's a lot coming at us. Lots of
Mhm.
solutions and products and ideas. And I think the one thing that I've really taken away is that you have to really look at yourself and your agency. And
Mhm.
all of our agencies are different. Something that might work for you might not work for me. And
Mhm.
so I know I've had to be cautious about bringing on different technology or management systems. The last couple of years has been a big thing. And, I might personally want to go in one direction, but I have to look at our team and what we have and our technology skills and what we're able to do. And so I think that that's important is really looking at so from my nonprofit world, it was a drug and alcohol treatment, really big in AA. And there's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, it works if you work it.
Mm.
And that's it. I think you pick your systems, you pick your technologies, and you work it. And you might change, you might adjust, but I think that's the one thing I've learned is it's so easy to get off course, by shiny objects or something that might be working for another agency. But I think staying the course sometimes is important. So
Right.
that's been a big thing for me. It's easy to get the paralysis of analysis, and I think that it's an easy thing to have happen. But I keep going back to what does our agency need? What works for us?
Yes.
So
So good. So good.
mhm.
Bogus. He's always says that inside
He's
of
my
the mat.
favorite guy.
Yeah, he always says it inside the mastermind. No matter what kind of conversation you get into, he'll go, guys, remember, it has to do what works best for your agency. You know
Yes,
what I
right,
mean?
right.
It's the absolute truth when he says that because it brings us all back.
It
Because you can be in
does.
the same room with
Yes.
10 people and they talk
Hmm.
about the same thing, and
Yep.
five of them never got it to work, and the other five are making a ton of money doing it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes as agents, we get stuck in wondering why rather than just realizing it is what it
It
is,
is
right?
what it is.
And
Uh-huh.
there's things that you can do that they're not very good at.
Yes.
So like you just said,
Absolutely.
kudos to you. Kudos
Yeah.
to you. And the independent world is awesome, right?
Oh my gosh, I am so thankful. It's the best thing that it could have ever happened, not
Hmm.
just to me, but our clients. I
Yes.
feel so
You
good
said that
about
twice
what we're
now.
providing to our clients and to the community.
Yeah, you've said
Yeah.
that twice now. I really like your
Hmm.
appreciation for your clients. Very
Yeah.
little do you talk about you, which humbles yourself very well. So,
Thanks.
Ellie Platt, I definitely appreciate it. Now, here, I know you might get your kicks onto Netflix. What are you watching when it comes to your stuff after hours?
Oh, I am really not much of a TV watcher.
But
I
there's a time when you turn
Yeah.
on something to go,
So
at
this
the
is
right.
horrible, but I watch. So it's actually so crass and crude, but I watched the roasting of Justin Bieber this weekend, and it was the funniest thing I have ever watched. Like I laughed out loud. But it was like Shaquille O'Neal and like Snoop Dogg was like smoking weed on stage, and like it was like, oh, Martha Stewart was on it. It was hilarious. Like, so
Oh my
something
God.
I would say I like to watch things that make me not think. However, I would say I do love Handmaid's Tale.
Oh man, my wife
That
loves
just came out, which is such a downer. But, I do Handmaid's Tale. I'm a fan of Grey's Anatomy.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I love that.
Roasting a Justin Bieber. Look it
I'm
up.
gonna
Make sure your
actually.
kids are nowhere in sight.
Is it on Netflix or something? Do you remember?
It was on, I think I bought it on Vudu.
Okay.
Yeah, like you have
Yeah.
to buy it. And it's
I'm gonna check
old.
that.
It's from like 2015.
Right.
But it's like there are things they say where you're like, are they allowed to say that?
Yeah, I know. I
But
know.
it was
Sometimes.
good.
Yeah. Sometimes. A secret that I don't think it's a secret because I haven't heard it this year, but there's been talk over the past couple IAOA meetings that they would put, with him knowing, Nicholas on the stage
I like
and
that.
pick 4 or 5 people and roast him.
That's hilarious.
And Nicholas has said he'd do it, but he says every time we talk about it as friends, he says, just remember one thing. I get the microphone last.
Ah!
And it kind of scares everybody. We're kind of like, well, okay, never mind, because
So
Nicholas.
that's
I
what
mean,
they do. So it's a Comedy Central show. Like there's like a whole model for it. But so Justin Bieber gets up at the end and he goes down the line, to every single person there. It was like ludicrous. Like it was hilarious. So
I don't know if I could do it. Nicholas and I have a very close relationship behind the scenes, so
yeah.
I don't know. He knows a lot about me. I'd be like, ooh.
That's hilarious. He's
So
awesome.
anyway.
I went to Phoenix for the
Oh
Better
yeah.
Agency conference,
Hmm.
and not even so much I mean, their software is great,
Hmm.
but just to be, I wanted our team member, I brought a couple people with me. I wanted them there because there hasn't been anything lately, and I
Hmm.
wanted them to be around Willie Wagner, Chris Jill. Like, I just wanted them to be around, and
Soak
Nick,
it up.
just soak it up. And it's funny how we've come back, how energizing that is.
Mm.
Because, when you're in your small little bubble, like I'm in Ohio, the agents around us, they're, I mean, I hate saying this, but they're mediocre. They're not great,
I mean,
and so,
they're not Ellie Platt. I mean, come on. You know.
but I like them to be able to be around that energy.
Yeah,
And I think it's been so great. Yeah, they're not
totally.
Ellie Platt. They aren't.
Yeah, they work it. Of course, they're not. It's taking you to this much time to get where you are. Thank you
Right.
very much for coming on the podcast. One last one though. Leaders are
Yeah.
readers, and I know you're a reader. What are you reading?
I've been really reading a lot of investing books lately.
Oh wow.
There's one that was my New Year's resolution. The Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins is one that I just finished.
Okay.
A lot of similar to The Millionaire Next Door. Really, his message is really about living below your means, living off of half you make and investing the rest.
Right.
He's a big fan of Vanguard, so but been a really good one.
It's not how much you make; it's how much you keep.
Right, right.
I've always known that and heard that, but I heard Nicholas Ayers say that in 2016. We
Hmm.
were in Cleveland at the Elevate, and
Elevate. No, that's where I first met you.
okay,
So my
okay.
first entryway into this insurance agent mastermind was I came to your breakout at Elevate.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm. But
So
go
he
ahead.
says, no, that's cool to know. He says,
Mhm.
I remember him saying, he said, why are we all in business? And everybody's raising their hand and saying different things and to take care of people and all this. And he's like, nope, 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 nope. And then all of a sudden he was like, okay, click. And he clicks behind and it says profit. At the end of
Yes.
the day, that's why we're all in
Mhm.
business. And how do we make profit? We
Right, right.
keep more than we spend. He did this kind of thing. And it was
Yeah.
really, really important because it gets to the bottom of, I mean, that's really what we're trying to do. And that's what that book is saying. Right now, I'm reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh yeah,
I have
so similar
I've heard
message.
about that so many times. I've
Hmm.
never read it. I was on my way back from Chicago and I finished up Matthew McConaughey's Green Light, and then I was just like, I'm gonna listen to this, and that was one thing he really preaches in there. It's not about how much. It's one of the most simplest things that makes the difference between someone who's rich and poor is
Yeah,
who keeps
who
more,
keeps the most,
who
right?
keeps the most, right? So you can
Yeah.
invest it, right? You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
who
Invest it and being frugal, making good choices. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you should spend it. I mean, I've
it's tough.
been around a lot of people with wealth and they have all the cars and the money. I mean, most of those people are up to their eyeballs in debt. Is
Hmm.
that the legacy I want to leave my son? No,
Yeah,
and
no,
so
no.
it's a good book. It was a good reinforcement. So,
All
and
right.
Rich Dad Poor Dad's a lot like that. The Millionaire Next Door is another one.
I haven't read that either, and I need to. I'm a snob. For some reason, when everybody says read these books, I never read them. I like to read other stuff, and then I'll come back later.
Yeah,
Ellie, I definitely and I greatly appreciate you. The loyal
for
listeners
sure.
appreciate you coming on. This is it's a very fun series, the Mom series, Women
Yeah.
with
Thank you for
Mastermind.
having me.
I appreciate you being in Mastermind. I really, truly do.
Yeah. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's easy when I get to talk and learn from people like you. So, no problem whatsoever. To all you loyal listeners, you know what I do because I do it for you. This has been Agency Intelligence, where I gave you a real agent inside real agency, giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. This is Cass. She's Ellie. We're out.